Greetings, human life forms. I'm the Meister, joined alongside Thomas Bailey yet again for our Week 13 NFL predictions. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. It is that time of the year yet again. We're going to start things off with our records from last week. Brian went 11-3 for an overall of 111-66 on the year. The AI went 8-6 with an overall of 118-59. I went 11-3 last week for an overall of 106-71, and Thomas went 10-4 with an overall of 120-57. So I will take this bad boy yet again this week. Thank you.
You're last in the picks, but you won last week, and that's what counts. So.
The moral victories.
Yes. I mean, you have a chance. It's only a 14-game slide for me and 5 behind Brian. So, I mean, it's really just between us 3.
I mean,
the AI is a nice little juicer, I guess. But
yeah. I mean, I can make that all up in 1 week, technically, if you want to think about it that way.
I mean, if I literally picked every wrong game, yes.
Yeah, literally.
We'd have to pick differently every game, too.
Yeah, we would. But kicking things off, we got our, per usual, the Thanksgiving slates. First of which, 1 o'clock on Fox. It is the 7-3-1 Green Bay Packers traveling into Detroit to take on the 7-4 Lions. Neither team is in first place in the North. The Bears still hold that as of right now. But a rematch from Week 1 when the Packers really dominated defensively over the Detroit Lions, only this time in Detroit. Both teams look very different than they did in Week 1. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, whoever wins this game, if the Bears lose on Black Friday to the Eagles, they would be in first place in the division. So this is a huge matchup between these two teams. However, one thing I want to mention here, I'm going to mention stats throughout this entire episode, obviously, as I tend to do. But there are 9 teams in the NFL this season that have given up less than 21 points per game this year. The Lions have faced 3 of those teams, and in those games they are 0-3. Those teams are the Packers, Chiefs, and Eagles. Those scores were 27-13, a loss, 30-17, a loss, and 16-9 they were losses for those 3 games. In those 3 games alone, they are outscored 73-39. Terrible outing against these teams. One of those teams I mentioned, the Green Bay Packers, they're playing them again. And they had Micah Parsons in Week 1, where he wasn't used to the system or anything. He wasn't really acclimated with everything in Green Bay. And he still torched them for 2.5 sacks in that game. I think that this will be a very good football game. Don't get me wrong. I just think that this is one of those games where it's going to, if it turns into a defensive battle, Green Bay is going to win the football game. And if it's a shootout, I think Detroit has it all day. However, one other key stat that I want to mention, the Lions haven't topped 25 points in their last 9 straight Thanksgiving Day games. With that being said, I think at least for it to be considered a shootout, it's probably around 27 to 28 points, I'd say, just to be a little bit fair.
Okay.
And so with that being said, I think it's going to be more of that defensive battle, and they haven't been able to win those games yet this season. If they can win this one, that'd be totally helpful for them. I just don't think they do it. Green Bay gets the win to start us off, 24-21 in a close one. Give me the Packers.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be an interesting game. Considering both of these teams have kind of been lagging a little bit. The Packers had that defensive outing against the Vikings last week. They did enough on offense to get the win. Defense really killed Minnesota last week, but Minnesota's offense really has been lackluster these past couple weeks. And as for Detroit, they nearly lost to the New York Giants, but the Giants' season was on the line, and Jameis Winston literally had the game of his life, turning into Megatron in that game.
Apparently.
But Lions are the favorites in this game. Packers took them out early in the season. It's really tough to decide for these divisional games, especially with the stakes being this high, but Packers beat them once. I do not see a sweep happening, so give me the Detroit Lions here.
There we go. We disagree on the first
the Green
one.
Bay Packers. Yeah, there we go. One of 14 games.
Yeah,
disagree on. But in terms of other picks, Brian is going to side with you and go with the Green Bay Packers, as the AI is going to side with me and go with the Detroit Lions. So we got a split to start things off on Thanksgiving.
It's actually refreshing, considering these last couple weeks have been pretty cut and dry on who we all picked. So having a little bit of variety already this early is pretty good.
It's like cutting down right the middle of the turkey here to start things off.
Okay. Yeah, one of these two teams is going to get stuffed.
Yeah. But second matchup on Thanksgiving, this one following right after the first game at 4:30 in Dallas on CBS. The 5-1 Dallas Cowboys, coming off a statement win over the Philadelphia Eagles, host the 6-5 Kansas City Chiefs, who had a statement win of their own at home. against the Indianapolis Colts. Both of these teams fighting for their playoff lives. Who's going to get the win on Turkey Day?
Yeah, it's a really good game, and I want to mention a couple more statistics for this one as well. Going into the trade deadline, the Cowboys had given up the fourth most rushing yards per game this season with 142.7, and the second most points per game with 30.7. In their last two games, they have only allowed 45 rushing yards and 14.5 points per game for those two statistics set alone. I think that is showing what Jerry Jones did at the deadline to be a very good success. Obviously, Logan Wilson on that defense, and of course, the main one, Quinnen Williams, have really helped that defense take off. But again, he really only played the Raiders, and then he played Philadelphia, but I'm starting to get to that point where I don't know if Philadelphia is as legit as we once thought they were. So those are two wins that are a little iffy to me. Obviously, the Raiders won a lot more than Philadelphia. I'll give them credit for fighting back and winning that game from down 21-0 to winning. But that's a big one there. And then the other statistic I want to mention is the Chiefs have been horrible on the road this season. They're 1-4. Their one win on the road this season against the New York Giants, which if Jackson Dart plays that game, maybe they win, because I remember that Russell Wilson he threw it away, I think it was, on the fourth down. They could have totally won that game, and they're 1-4 on the road. They played atrocious there, and that's because Mahomes hasn't played like Mahomes on the road. And that's something that you're going to have to see them get back into if they're going to win. They're already 0-2 in the month of November on the road. However, one thing that's going good for them, since the trade deadline that I just mentioned, Dallas has had the highs, but they've also had the lows. Their pass defense went from 23rd in the league to 28th over the last 2 weeks. And again, they played the Eagles, who are not really good at passing the ball this season. They've been terrible at it all year. And the Raiders, who aren't really that good of a football team. Those are two teams that you really shouldn't be giving up a lot of passing yards, and they've gotten worse over the last few weeks, significantly worse, by like 4 spots, 5 spots. That's not where you want to be if you're the Dallas Cowboys, especially going up against a Chiefs team that hasn't really had a running game all season. They're going to need to throw the football, and if they can throw the football and get time, then that's what's going to really count. The one redeeming factor for Dallas in that regard is Trey Smith being out for this game with his injury. He won't be good to go. Quinnen Williams in the middle will only face really Creed Humphrey and whoever the right guard, Joe Thuney, I guess, would end up being, and then whoever the right guard backup would be. Either way, though, I do think it's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be close. It's going to be a little higher scoring a football game, but I do think the Kansas City Chiefs get this one done. Kansas City wins it 28-23. They showed me one thing last week, and that's that they can win when the time comes, when they need to, and I think they proved it last week that they are a team that can still compete. They are going to get the win here on Thanksgiving and keep their playoff hopes alive. This will be my favorite game of the entire Thursday day. I just think this is the one that means the most to these two teams.
Yeah, I was hearing a lot of discussion, too, if this game could break the viewing record on Thanksgiving for the amount of views during a football game. We'll see if that happens, though. But for this game, I kind of feel like you can really go either way. I called the Dallas Cowboys upset. I got to mention that. I was really proud of myself for it, even though it was looking really bad in the first half. And then Kansas City, too. I think a lot of people were picking the Chiefs last week just because no one really saw them having that losing record on them at 5-6. But now at 6-5 going into Dallas, really right now for both these teams, they're in must-win mode. And clearly the team that's better in those must-win scenarios is the Kansas City Chiefs. So give me the Chiefs to win this one on Thanksgiving. As Brian also is going to side with us and go with the Kansas City Chiefs, as the AI is going to lone wolf here and go with the Dallas Cowboys.
I hope AI is right.
Yeah, I do too. But we will see. The one time I'll probably ever root for Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, right.
But moving on to the Thanksgiving night game, 8:20 on NBC. It is a battle of two AFC North teams. It is the 3-8 Cincinnati Bengals, who finally have Joe Burrow back for this game, as they travel into Baltimore to take on the 6-5 Ravens, riding a 5-game winning streak as they are back atop the AFC North, at least for this week, bearing if they can get past the Bengals here in this one. Probably be a good game here. The Ravens have kind of been slugging past these wins the past few weeks. Bengals, hopefully with new hope with Joe Burrow. Who do you got here on Thursday night?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are annoyed that Joe Burrow's coming back, risking bigger injury and stuff like that. Does it seem a little crazy? Yeah, sure, on the surface, yes, it does. But if you're looking at anything else, not necessarily just overall playoff spots, that's probably not going to happen. But the division is very much so up for grabs. They have the Ravens twice. They also get to play the Browns and stuff like that. So they have a pretty sizable difference for these teams and stuff like that right now. The Ravens are 6-5 at first. They have to play the Bengals twice, the Steelers twice, and then the Patriots and Packers. That's a really tough schedule for Baltimore, especially with Lamar's injury continuing to nag him even into this week. He's listed as questionable technically so far this week, although I think he plays.
Yeah.
And then you got the Steelers. They play the Bills this week. They have the Ravens twice again, and then they also have the Lions, and then the Dolphins and Browns. I guess, they probably win those games, but still, anything can happen. And we saw it happen with Miami a couple of years ago where they lost to the Titans of all teams, and they lost the division because of that. Could totally happen to a team like Pittsburgh, who really every week they seem to be super weird and confusing with how they play. Either way, though, that leaves just really the Bengals because we're going to exclude the Browns. I mean, Shedeur time not good enough for this situation, at least in my opinion. They play the Ravens twice, so they control their own destiny with these two games against the division leader right now. And then they play the Bills, Dolphins, Cardinals, and Browns. Very winnable games for the Bengals because they've beaten the Bills statistically almost every single time they played each other. And then they also have a very good team, so I think they can definitely beat Miami, Arizona, and Cleveland to round it out. Mm-hmm. They really are controlling their own destiny. This is a huge game. A lot of people are going to be like, oh, they're 3-8. There's no chance. There really is a chance. I'm not going to say it's a high chance. It's like a Hail Mary throw, but, I mean, who knows? We've seen Hail Marys be caught before. I think this could totally happen for Cincinnati. Now back on track, though, to this game specifically. I'm sorry that it took a little second to bring that up, but even with Chase and Burrow back, you can't fully trust the Bengals to win a game like this for one reason. That fucking defense is so god-awful. But weirdly enough, they've gotten better after the Logan Wilson trade. They've gotten better in total defense from 26th to 24th. Only 2-spot upgrade, but that's 2 weeks, 1 spot per week. That's not terrible. They're starting to show a little bit of improvement. And they get to face a Baltimore Ravens team who doesn't like to do anything except for stop themselves from scoring, apparently. Because for whatever reason, this Ravens team hasn't been able to get it done. Since Week 10, Lamar hasn't topped 200 passing yards a single time. He has more interceptions than touchdown passes with 3-1. 3 interceptions to 1 touchdown pass so far. And his completion percentage has been below 60% for the first time in his career with 57.1%. And he also seems hesitant to run, averaging just 14.8 rushing yards per game over those last 4 games. That's terrible for this team, especially with a quarterback who's still nagging that injury right now. Those things concern me. And if this game gets into a shootout, I think Cincinnati might actually have a chance, and I think Cincinnati's going to pull off the upset here on Thursday night. My upset of the week because it's a negative 7-point favorite. Baltimore loses 31-24 to Cincinnati. They kept it close last week with the fucking Jets because of that offense playing like shit. If Burrow and the Bengals come out and drop 28 to 31 points in this game, Baltimore's not going to have a chance in hell. Go ahead and give me the Ravens to lose this one on the Thursday night football game to round out a Thanksgiving. Wow.
I wasn't really expecting this to happen, but me and you are on the exact same wavelength for this game.
Yeah.
And speaking of upset of the week...
Oh, no, dude, stop. You're kidding.
I got the Cincinnati Bengals.
Damn it.
Also taking down the Baltimore Ravens. That is impressive here.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah,
with all the analytics and everything like that, the Ravens the past couple weeks have not been the same. Even with Lamar Jackson back, sure, they've been winning games. I mean, against Cleveland, it's understandable. Cleveland has a really great defense.
But the Jets lost so much, and they kept them under wraps for most of that game.
They kept them under wraps, and the Ravens were keep making mistakes. Derrick Henry, let's face it, he's not looked the same in probably months at this point.
I went out of my way to kind of look at it, but the first game Baltimore had with Lamar Jackson back was that Dolphins game on Thursday night. If you exclude that Dolphins game, Lamar's under 45% completion over the last 2 weeks. 45% completion. That's less than 50%, obviously. But 45% completion, no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions in those last 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Nothing there. And then rushing-wise, he's down to 7.8 yards per carry instead of 14.8 rushing yards per game, So that's really bad for Lamar Jackson over these last couple weeks. And I understand you're playing Cincinnati's defense, which also sucks, but if Baltimore can't score on other teams that don't have good defenses, what's making me think they're not going to do it again?
Mm-hmm. And plus, they added Joseph Burrow being back. I think this is really like the perfect setup on Thanksgiving night. This Bengals team wants to make a statement, and they can do it against the top team.
You might think it's Easter because I guess this is literally the rise of Christ from Cincinnati. I guess
Literally, we've all been thinking of who the best team in the AFC is. It could be the Bengals.
I think the AFC North specifically, that's just such a tricky division.
It really is.
They haven't played any great games yet, they're not playing any teams that are really good. And I think Chicago's a good team, but Pittsburgh even lost to them, so yeah. I don't know.
But in terms of the other picks for this one, both Brian and the AI are going to go with the Baltimore Ravens in this one. So cut that turkey down the middle yet again. So
yeah,
we're both on the same side of the plate here for this one. As we head to some Black Friday football on Prime Video at 3 p.m., it is 2 8-3 teams in the NFC, one of which being the Philadelphia Eagles, who had that loss to the Dallas Cowboys last week, as they host the 8-3 Bears. Who would have thought the Bears would be sitting here atop one of the top teams in the NFC right now? We'll see if they can sustain it in really one of those big games where if the Bears could win this game, that might really bump up the Bears as to potentially one of those top teams in the NFC in a lot of people's eyes. We'll see if it happens. Huge game, obviously, for both teams here. Who do you see coming out with the best deal on Black Friday?
Yeah, that's a fun little one there, but I think it's interesting for me because this is the game between the two frauds, in my opinion, in the NFC right now. The Philadelphia Eagles and the Chicago Bears are the two teams that have been the most fraudulent so far in the NFC that look good on paper with those 8-3 records, but if you look a little deeper, it doesn't look like it's that close of a game. However, one little redeeming factor when I was picking this is the Chicago Bears are 1-3 this season when playing teams with an above 500 record. Their only win was last week against the Steelers, who, mind you, didn't have their starting quarterback, and they still almost lost that game, 31-28. 28 points to Mason Rudolph. 28 points to Mason Rudolph in that Steelers offense. That's not a good sign, especially considering it wasn't Mason Rudolph. I'll mention that in a minute, but it wasn't Mason Rudolph, but they still almost lost that game. They close out their season with 5 of their final 6 games with the teams above 500 to close out this season. And those 500 teams that they're playing against have 3 or more wins over 500. So 7-4 or 8-3 for the rest of their season. And that starts with this game in Philadelphia. So I think that that's going to be a really tough one for them to come out of. They've had their easy part of the schedule. Now it's time to back it up and play like they can really win games. I just don't know if they can. One thing about the Eagles, on the other hand, the Eagles are 5-0 this season when they're top 100 yards. They gave up 264 yards last week to one running back, basically, Kenneth Gainwell. Gave up 264 rushing yards to the fucking Steelers defense, like the Steelers offense last week, and it's Kenneth Gainwell. We're not talking about prime Derrick Henry or Bijan Robinson or any of the other really good running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs. We're talking about Kenneth Gainwell. And that's a really bad sign. And I know Saquon hasn't been himself, but with how they really played last week, they threw the ball all over the yard. A.J. Brown finally got involved. 8 catches, 110 yards and a touchdown. All those things. They lost. They're going to go back to their old ways, and they're going to run the football in this game. And with Saquon Barkley in that backfield, I'd take Saquon Barkley over this version of Kenneth Gainwell. And because of that, if they get over that 100-yard mark, with those two factors being in, about the Bears not really playing anybody of significance, and when they do, they lose, and the Eagles being 5-0 when Barkley goes over 100 yards, I think it's a perfect match there for the the Philadelphia Eagles to win this one 28-20. Go ahead and give me Philly to get this one done.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you here. Give me the Philadelphia Eagles. This is really a big stage for the Bears to see if they are ready to take that next step and be one of those premier teams in the NFC. I don't think it's going to happen. Me and you were talking about this before the pod. We were like, we don't think the Bears are as good as their 8-3 record shows, and I think that's going to be evident here in this game here a little bit.
They remind me of that Vikings team from a few years ago where they just were like really good and then they lost to Daniel Jones in the wild card. I think that's probably what ends up happening to them. They make it to the playoffs as like a 6 or the 7 seed, and then they're probably going to be done.
And the Eagles' defense, they still played great last week because there are a lot of fumbles that the offense
They gave up a fumble inside the 10, and they didn't give up any points off that.
Exactly.
Even Aubrey missed a field goal, too, in that game. They had everything go their way, and they still lost.
Yeah, the Eagles' defense is still one of the best in the league here. And if you're going to tell me that the Eagles can hold the Bears to under 20 points in this game, the Eagles are probably going to win this football game. So give me Philadelphia to take care of business in this one, as Brian is going to pick the Chicago Bears in this one over the Philadelphia Eagles, as the AI is going to side with me and you and go with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Brian Lone Wolfing Chicago, I
Yes,
see.
he is. As we're going to move into the Sunday slate of games of 1 o'clock, this first matchup being on Fox. It is the 2-9 New Orleans Saints traveling into Miami to take on the 4-7 Dolphins. Both teams really kind of having rough seasons here. Dolphins maybe getting some life in the back half of the season here, as the Saints, not really much to really speak of them as of right now. But Dolphins are the favorites in this game, but do you see Miami pulling this one out?
I want to mention that I think Miami is a product of their schedule, just like Chicago is. They're basically opposites. Chicago had their easy half first and their hard half now. Miami's got the exact same thing, just vice versa. They had their hard half in the beginning, and now they're getting that easy schedule. And while I do think that's true, and I think Miami's not going to make some crazy run to the playoffs or anything crazy like that, I do think they're a good enough team to keep themselves afloat for this week specifically. It's New Orleans. I trusted in New Orleans last week against Atlanta, and I was retarded apparently, because what the fuck was that offense? Their best play of the entire game was that pick six by Justin Reed, so realistically they couldn't do anything outside of that. So with that all being said, I do think Miami holds on for at least this week and wins this one 27-17 against a pretty horrendous New Orleans Saints team, who realistically might still be in the running for that number 1 overall pick.
I am also going to go with the Miami Dolphins here in this one. The Saints are just a flat line right now. They really are. And they weren't even able to really do anything against the Falcons last week, like you said, outside of that pick six that happened. And then for Miami, coming off the bye week, they had that game across the pond against the Commanders where they won that one. So maybe the Dolphins got a little bit of life left. And for the rest of the season here, we'll see. But I am going to go with Miami. The Saints are just really a mess right now, as I'm going to agree with you there. As for Brian and the AI, one of these two people here have an upset of the week in this one, and that is Brian with the Saints over the Dolphins, as the AI will once again agree with us and go with the Miami Dolphins in that matchup. As we move...
Know what you're trying to do, Brian. You don't got to do it. It's the Saints, bro. You better beat the Saints anyway.
Literally every week he's doing this shit. But moving on to the next game on CBS, this one a very much more interesting matchup. An AFC South 1-2 between the 6-5 Houston Texans that took down the Bills on Thursday night, as they travel into Indianapolis to take on the 8-3 Colts, who suffered a loss at the hands of Patrick Mahomes last week. Really huge game. If the Texans win this one, they're a game away from first place in the South, which is crazy to say.
That is true.
But that is the state of the NFL here this season. But huge game, huge stakes. Who do you have winning this one?
Yeah, this game is going to be very close, and I want you to listen to that word, close. Close is the most important word when I say that, because last week, Daniel Jones just looked really bad. He's thrown 4 interceptions in the last 3 weeks, and in the loss to the Chiefs, he threw for just 181 yards in that game. With the game on the line in the fourth quarter against Kansas City, Daniel Jones went just 2 for 8 for 13 yards in overtime, and that's really, really bad for them. With that being said, though, obviously that makes it very difficult for what Daniel Jones is kind of there and everything like that. And the Colts have lost 2 of their past 3 games, while the Texans have won 3 games in a row. Momentum is a huge deal in the NFL. We saw it happen to the Bills last week after coming off that loss or that win against Tampa Bay, and they didn't have enough momentum like Houston had. Momentum's got even more momentum coming in off a Thursday night game versus playing on Sunday, especially considering they didn't play in overtime too.
Yeah.
So that's a really big deal for them, obviously. That puts Houston right back in that AFC race. They're literally right there with these 2 teams in Jacksonville and Indianapolis too. So who knows what ends up happening with those things. But one thing I'm going to say here is if the Colts want to win on Sunday, they're going to have to run the football, right? That's just what it is, especially when they're playing against this good of a defense. Houston's defense this season has given up the fewest yards per game with 264.3. The second fewest points per game was 16.5, only to Denver. The third fewest points per game with 172.1, and the fifth fewest rushing yards allowed per game with 92.2. That is a very important thing. They also have 33 sacks this season, which they made Josh Allen look like a fucking Division II quarterback out there with how he fucking played last week, which pisses me off. But either way, this is a game where it feels like they're going to try to get Jonathan Taylor going, but Houston's not going to think about anything other than stopping Jonathan Taylor this week. Basically, if they come into this game thinking they are going to run the football, they're not going to run the football on this Houston team. Houston's just too good of a team to stop them from really running the ball, especially after what happened to them last week, giving up 117 yards and a huge rushing touchdown to James Cook, which was realistically the only reason the Bills were even close in that game in the first place. So if that ends up happening, Houston's going to be ready for that, which means if Indy's going to win this game, it's going to come down to if Daniel Jones can win those games in the fourth quarter, which is why I brought up those stats at the beginning. 2 for 8 for 13 yards in the fourth quarter in overtime last fucking Sunday against Kansas City. Kansas City is a good defense, but Houston is an elite defense. You're playing one of the best defenses in all of football. You're already on a slumping streak right now with a quarterback who's shown consistently now that he can't win the games for you. I trust Houston more. Whether it's Stroud, whether it's Mills, give me the Houston fucking Texans to win this game. This would have been my upset had I not picked Cincinnati. But yeah, Houston gets the win here, 20-17 over Indianapolis.
Well, it looks like you're going to be lone wolfing in this one because me, Brian, and the AI are all going to side with the Indianapolis Colts in this one. It's just really tough. It's really tough to pick because it's always tough for me to pick teams that just beat the Bills specifically because every time when I watch a team like the Bills, it's always, well, we did this wrong, the Bills did that wrong. If the Bills executed better than this, and that team would have been able to do that, it's like a whole thing of that nature.
The Bills had everything go their way, and we still didn't win. If you take away the rushing touchdown by James Cook, and then the kick return touchdown with Ray Davis, that's 14 of our points right there. How many points do we have outside of that? 6? The first drive touchdown?
I think so.
Yeah. We scored 6 points on them if you take away those 2 big plays. Houston's a team that's not going to give up those big plays often, and the law of averages states that if they gave it up last week, they're probably not going to give it up this week, especially to a running back. And the only way the Colts can win is if Jonathan Taylor is the main focal point of that offense. And with them being able to stymie this Bills team, they're going to be able to game plan perfectly for a team like Indianapolis, and they're going to come out, and that's not discrediting Shane Steichen. I think they'll keep it close, and they'll be in this game the whole way through, but I just think Houston's a better team in that specific regard.
Yeah, but moving on to our next matchup here, another Fox game here. This one being the 4-7 Atlanta Falcons traveling into New Jersey to take on the 2-9 Jets. Another one of those lackluster kind of games. Kirk Cousins with his second start of the season up against the Jets. We'll see if Drake London plays this week. Please, for the love of God. We will see. But no real playoff implications to speak of in this one. Maybe perhaps because of how the NFC South has been playing out. Falcons still shockingly in contention for that division right now. But I guess big stakes for them, not so much with the Jets right now. Who do you got winning this one?
I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. I think Atlanta wins. I just don't think that Tyrod Taylor is the reason why they're going to win these football games. And honestly, in my own opinion, I feel like they just need to give Justin Fields more passing options. They don't trust Justin Fields to throw the football, and that was the issue. I felt like Justin Fields should have stayed the starter. He only threw 1 interception. He had 11 touchdowns when he was playing. They just wouldn't let him throw the football much. They ran the ball most of the time with Breece Hall, or even Ashton Davis has been getting more action than Justin Fields has. So, unfortunately, he just didn't fit the scheme in New York too well, and obviously Tyrod Taylor being a systematic, decent quarterback, I think he'll be able to keep them in this game, but I think Atlanta's just a better football team on paper. Their defense was really surprising to me last week against, I guess, New Orleans, which, take that for what it will, but yeah. I do think that the Jets' offense isn't much better than New Orleans, so Go ahead and give me Atlanta 23-14.
Yeah, this game, I guess, was like a little tough to predict considering both these teams. Obviously, the Falcons won last week, but it was against the Saints. And the Jets lost last week, and it was against the Ravens. But the
they
Ravens,
kept it close.
Yeah, and the Ravens have been slumping a little bit either.
Yeah, I don't think it's about the Jets being good, though. I think that's more about the Ravens just, ruining themselves.
Exactly. But for this game, I feel like all that's really going to need to happen is Bijan Robinson have a decent day, Kirk Cousins be efficient, and this game will probably end up in a Falcons W here for this one. So give me the Falcons as well in this matchup, as Brian will side with us. Go with the Falcons. Is the AI
continues its little pick on the Jets for whatever reason.
Yep, and it's a lone wolf. No upset here, just a lone wolf. AI's going to go with the Jets. I can't wait for
the AI's upset. It's going to be some stupid shit.
Oh, just wait.
Oh, no.
But moving on to the next matchup, another CBS game here. It is the 8-4 San Francisco 49ers, who just won on Monday night against the Panthers, as they travel into Cleveland to take on the 3-8 Browns, who absolutely murdered Geno Smith last week. Browns really got a couple nice wins, I guess you could say, but not too great overall. Shedeur Sanders, hey, it's time, 1-0, undefeated. And then the 49ers right in the thick of the division race, really, just up there with the Rams and Seahawks, too. So we'll see how that division plays out, but much bigger game for the Niners than it is for the Browns. But who do you see getting the victory at 1 o'clock?
I think Shedeur is an okay quarterback. It's just I don't think that he was the reason they won last week. It was most certainly that Browns defense, which Myles Garrett, I wanted to shout him out real quick because holy fuck. He is only 4.5 sacks away from breaking the NFL single-season record as of right now.
It's week 13.
And it's week 13. He's got another 5 weeks on some demon shit, apparently. And over the last 4 weeks, he has 13 sacks, which is the second leader in the entire NFL right now. Brian Burns has 13 sacks on the season.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, so Myles Garrett, yeah. Holy shit. Anyway.
Drug test.
Yeah, right, probably. But either way, if I'm being honest, I just don't think that this is going to be a game Cleveland can win. Their defense will certainly keep them in it, considering this was a little bit harder after the Monday Night Football game where Brock Purdy threw 3 fucking picks against the Carolina Panthers, but I still think that I'm going to have to lean towards San Francisco in this game. There's just coming down to coaching with these two teams, and San Francisco's beat up on the defensive side of the ball. Cleveland's offense isn't good enough to expose that. I think that Cleveland's going to end up losing in a closer game than a lot of people will expect, though. 21-16, give me San Francisco. This is the AI's upset.
Give me the Niners here as well in this one. Just even with Purdy's 3 interceptions, I mean their whole offense we know is Christian McCaffrey, and really, I mean that's going to be really the only guy they're really going to need in that offense to get some points on the board here. And I'm sure Shedeur Sanders had an okay start, but it was against the Raiders defense, and they're playing against a really well-coached 49ers defense. So much bigger task here for Shedeur in this game. So we'll see how it plays out, but give me the Niners here in this one as Brian will side with us, go with the San Francisco 49ers, as the AI will also go with us in the San Francisco 49ers as well.
No lock of the week from the AI or Brian yet.
No, but it is coming up, obviously. We'll see. No lock of the week for me yet either, but we will see when those pop up.
God.
But moving into the next game, we have the 9-2 LA Rams traveling into Carolina to take on the 6-6 Panthers. Rams are one of everyone's top team in the league really right now, as they should be, dismantling the Buccaneers on Sunday night last week, as the Panthers had a bit of a rough game against the 49ers last week. I mean, the defense looked great, but Bryce Young did not. So we'll see if Bryce can rebound in this one against one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league. We will see, but what are your thoughts here on this matchup?
Yeah, for me, this is just one of those ones that's going to be a stinker. You know, like the Rams are much, much, much better than this Carolina Panthers team, and unfortunately, I can tell by the way you're laughing that this is also your lock of the week, probably.
Is it your lock of the week?
This is my lock of the week.
Right.
I just think the Rams are the better football team. They're way, way better, and because of that, it's hard for Carolina to win these football games. I mean, they got 3 picks last week, and they still couldn't find a way to win on offense. They only had a touchdown late in the game with Tedorow and McMillan catching that 28-yard pass. So I just don't think that they're a good enough football team to win this game, especially considering the Rams have proven that they can beat almost anybody in the NFL. And the only really good team that the Rams lost to was Philadelphia, and it was literally off a blocked field goal return for a touchdown at the end of the game. So realistically, they should have won that one too. But either way, I think the Rams are the better team. Cut dry. Go ahead and give me Los Angeles 31-17. Lock it in.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the LA Rams here as well, and this one is my lock of the week.
Is it actually?
Well. Yeah, it is, but don't worry, it gets a little bit worse. But with this game, I mean, I think everyone that's watched the podcast knows I'm a Panthers hater, and specifically a Bryce Young hater, solely because of Madden.
Yeah.
So this was a pretty easy pick for me to begin with. But top of that, with the Rams are the best team in the NFL, at least in my opinion. I'm sure a bunch of other people as well. So until Matthew Stafford regresses at all, if that's even possible, if the defense looks any worse, it's pretty easy. It's going to be the Rams are going to be winning these football games, as both Brian and the AI are going to pick the Rams as well, as everyone has their lock of the week for the same game for this week, and that being the LA Rams over the Carolina Panthers, a once-in-a-lifetime event right here.
Oh, wow.
As we're all going with the Rams in the lock of the week. If that doesn't scream upset, I don't know what does. With the Panthers potentially winning that one. But moving along to the next game. Does he drop your pen over here?
I don't even know where it went. Continue.
We got the 7-4 Jacksonville Jaguars battling still for first place in the AFC South, right there in the thick of it, as they travel into Tennessee to take on the 1-10 Titans, who shockingly are not eliminated from the NFL playoffs just yet.
Because of the division.
But that can easily change after this week. We will see. But divisional game, I don't think anything can happen in this one. We will see. But do you have an upset in this one, or are the Jaguars going to take care of business on the road?
We already know this is my upset. My upset's that Cincy game.
Yep.
I just think Jacksonville is the much better football team, and I think that they had a scare last week, which I literally almost predicted to a T. My final score was 27-24 for that game. Mm-hmm. Chad Ryland missed a 38-yard field goal. The game went to overtime, tied at 24. Arizona would have won 27-24 had that fucking went my way. Of course it does not, though, and that's unfortunate. But either way, though, moving into this week, I think I know Jacksonville pretty well. After a scary game last week, they'll come out and they'll get things right here. I still think it'll be a little bit closer because Cam Ward and that offense kind of really turned itself up in that last game against the Seahawks defense, which Seattle's been one of the best defenses in the NFL all season, right up there with Houston. So to be able to kind of compete in that game is very good for them. They only lost that game by 6 points, and a lot of people don't understand that. But, I mean, they weren't really in it for most of the game, so I guess that's fair. But still, Jacksonville will keep this one close, but the Jaguars come out with a win, 27-17. Give me Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Jaguars here as well. Even though the Titans did put up some points, I guess, against Seattle, I mean, it really wasn't a game for pretty much the entire game. So
yeah.
The Titans still that team that you just cannot pick to win at 1-10. And Jacksonville, they did have a bit of a scary game against the Cardinals, but they still got the job done in the end. And the Titans probably won't have anything to play for after this week. So if anything, they're going to be playing for the draft right now, because now...
Yeah, if they win one more game, then the Saints would be number one, not them.
That or the Giants. We'll see, though. It's a tight race there for the number one overall pick, but I'm going to go with the Jaguars here as well, as Brian will also go with the Jaguars, as the AI has the Tennessee Titans as they lone wolf it. It is not their upset.
What?
Still waiting on it. We will see it pop up here in one of these next few games here.
Yeah, I just set the record for the most lone wolves in 1 week with Dallas, New York, and Tennessee. That's 3.
AI is trying to make a comeback after last week, but...
Yeah, AI is stretching a little bit. Jeez.
With our last 1 o'clock game of the week, of the month, really, it is the 3-8 Arizona Cardinals coming off a loss against the Jaguars, traveling into Tampa Bay to take on the 6-5 Buccaneers that might be without Baker Mayfield for this game. We will see what ends up happening, but will be a very interesting game if Mayfield doesn't play, but we'll see how it plays out. It's only Tuesday, so we'll get more information, I'm sure, as the week goes on. But who do you have winning the final 1 o'clock game of November?
I just think it's going to be a very close football game. I think Arizona has showed that they can kind of compete with teams. I mean, they've been in games with Jacksonville, Green Bay, and Indianapolis this season. So those are three better football teams than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, at least as of right now. So with how Tampa's been slumping, I am going to go ahead and pick the Arizona Cardinals to win this game. I think Baker Mayfield might start. I don't really know if he will, but either way, they haven't been able to play as well as normal. And then on top of that, I went back and I looked at it right before we had this down or whatever, and they only averaged 21.4 points per game when Baker Mayfield messed up his shoulder with Cleveland. So if the Cardinals can manage to score 21 points in this game, I think they'll win, according to what we've seen from Mayfield with his past shoulder injury. So because of that, I think that little 21.4 number there that I wrote down earlier will come to fruition for this Arizona Cardinals team, and they'll finally bounce back and get a win. I picked the Cardinals a few weeks in a row now, I feel like, but they've been right there in the thick of things. I think they finally, with the law of averages on their side, finally get something back.
Yeah, I'm going to go on the flip side here. I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going into this thinking that Baker Mayfield will be playing this game.
I'm thinking he won't, but, I mean, even if he
Isn't it his left shoulder, too?
Yeah, it's the same shoulder that was injured the last time.
Mm.
So that's what scares me.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening with that. If Bridgewater does play, I think it's going to be tough for Tampa to win, but Tampa Bay does have Bucky Irving back for this week. They did announce that. It's about time.
It's about damn time.
And I think there's two factors that could be said for this game, too. One, the playoff race right now, especially in that division. It's as tight as ever. And you want to top that off with the game they had last week in prime time, getting absolutely killed. I think they're going to want to bounce back in a big way for this game. So we'll see how it plays out. But I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as the AI will side with me and go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as Brian will side with you and go with the Arizona Cardinals. So with how the AI has been picking games this week, I'm absolutely terrified.
Yeah, right.
But moving along to the final Fox game of the week, a 4:05 o'clock kickoff. It is the 4-7 Minnesota Vikings that might be without J.J. McCarthy this week, as they travel into Seattle to take on the 8-3 Seahawks, who took down the Tennessee Titans last week. So could be an interesting game. It might not be if McCarthy doesn't end up playing, but it might not be to begin with. So who do you have winning this one in the afternoon window?
Yeah, I'm going to have to lean with my gut here, and I'm going to lean with Seattle. However, if J.J. McCarthy played, I feel like this game could go a couple different ways, really. Seattle's kind of been uninspiring these last couple weeks, but they did kind of put away Tennessee in 3 quarters, gave up some garbage time points. And this is a lot more interesting of a game that I feel like a lot of people will give it credit for, but Seattle's been one of the better teams in the NFL. If it's KJ Brosmer, it's not going to be good, considering Carson Wentz is out for the season with season-ending shoulder surgery, so I think that this is going to be a Seattle win. No question about it, really. This could have been my lock of the week, too. And looking back, I wish it was. But, either way, I do think Seattle's got the win.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Seahawks, too. Just even though the Vikings have a really good defense, with how the offense has played the past couple weeks, it's not good. So it's really hard to pick them to win this one, especially going up against Seattle's defense, which even though it did give up some garbage time points in the end, it wasn't garbage time.
I am concerned about Sam Darnold going up against his former team, but more importantly,
really hasn't
that
mentioned
defense,
yet.
That former defense, that'll be the issue to me.
Yeah, too. I mean, he's played a lot of practice reps with them, so maybe that'll help for this game. We will see. But I'm going to go with Seattle in this one, as both Brian and the AI will side with us as well. So we have a clean sweep here.
For the first time this week, I think. Oh, other than the Rams?
Yeah, other than the Rams.
No, and the 49ers.
49ers as well, so that's 3 so far.
Yeah.
We'll see if there's 4. Probably not. We got on the CBS, we got the Nance Romo treatment here in this one.
Oh, Jim.
It is the 7-4 Bills coming off a loss to the Houston Texans as they travel into Pittsburgh to take on the 6-5 Steelers, who should have Aaron Rodgers back for this game. I apologize in advance if this takes 20 minutes to cover between the both of us for this one. But whoever loses this game will be out of the playoff picture in the AFC. So huge stakes in this one. We'll see which team wins, but who do you see winning here?
Oh, I have a fun little stat here for us. The Buffalo Bills are normally around this spot. We've been 6-5 to 8-3 in these ranges around this time, each of the last 4 seasons. So I'm not concerned with where the Bills currently sit. Bills always seem to find it when Thanksgiving week. Thanksgiving week is normally when the team's season comes back and they start playing a lot better of football. They've only lost 3 games over the last 4 years from week 13 onward. One of those games was last year to the Rams in a huge shootout. That was a really big game and stuff. And then a couple other times as well. So I do think with those 2 things being said that the Buffalo Bills are the better football team in terms of this time frame. Pittsburgh is coming off a loss and they might be a little juiced up and ready to go for a game like this. But the Bills just signed Brandon Cooks. Literally just a few minutes ago. So I wanted to kind of gatekeep this and save it. No way, as it's Adam Schefter tweeting it on ESPN or whatever. But either way, Brandon Cooks is a former pretty good player and stuff like that. So maybe the Bills do something with him. But we'll see what ends up happening. Either way, though, I do think Buffalo actually gets the win in this one. Pretty close game between them and Pittsburgh. Steelers have always kind of been close with Buffalo. I think Buffalo isn't as good as they once were, but I still think they've got it 24-20, giving the Bills on the road in Pittsburgh.
All right, give me the Buffalo Bills. After I saw that news, I'm a little more juiced up for this team. If I had to guess, he's probably not going to play this week, though, just because it is Tuesday. So, yeah. I mean, if he plays, it's going to be very, very limited in this one. But
he'll be back for the Chiefs playoff game when we lose.
Yeah, he'll be the guy to drop the pass. No. But for this matchup, the Steelers, I was very uninspired from them, and specifically their defense. I was uninspired by them because I was up here on camera the past couple weeks. I was hyping up the Steelers defense like it's getting better and better every single week, and I've kind of I'm not really too overly excited with the Bears offense. I'm not as crazy about the Bears as most other people are.
Right.
So it was kind of when seeing that they put up 28 points on them, I'm like, oh, are the Steelers defense really getting back to form, or was it just a couple week thing going up against certain teams? But for Buffalo here in this one, I mean, they're playing up against T.J. Watt here this week, so I don't know. I don't know how well the offensive line is going to rebound in this game. I don't think Spencer Brown is going to be playing this week. I heard he's eligible to be on IR, as well as Terrell Bernard, if my mind remembers this correctly. But those are 2 big-name players on the Bills that could potentially be missing this game. And the passing game for Buffalo right now is pretty broken right now, it feels like, and It almost reminds me of one of those plastic sheets, and if a defense that they play up against can't throw a punch, it's gonna stay intact and the offense will be fine. If they play against one of those better defenses like Houston,
I call it a glass cannon.
Or a glass cannon, yeah.
Because they can explode and play well and stuff like that, like a cannon can, but they're glass. If the cannon gets hit at all, it's over.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. If they have to play against a tough defense, it's gonna be a really tough outing for the offense, but Steelers' defense has been inconsistent, so, I mean, you kind of really don't know how the offense is going to perform here in this one.
Oh, yeah,
as the Bills' defense is continuing to struggle. They played really well in the second half against Houston, so maybe it's kind of those adjustments that really help the defense. So if the Bills can stay in it through the first half, and if the offense can also make adjustments into the second half, I think the Bills can definitely take care of business in this one. So give me the Bills to win this one, as well as Brian also has the Bills winning this one, as the AI has its upset of the week in the Pittsburgh Steelers over the Buffalo Bills.
I feel good about that considering their other picks this week. But
yeah. But we'll see how it plays out. But moving on to the final CBS game of the month, it is the 2-9 Las Vegas Raiders traveling into LA to take on the 7-4 Chargers. Chargers, fighting for the playoffs right now as the Raiders are starting to look towards the offseason, firing coaches left and right. We'll see how this one plays out. Who do you have winning this one?
I just want to mention a funny stat here because there's nothing else really to talk about. But Chip Kelly was fired, and Chip Kelly was fired by the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Bengals ended up going on to win the Super Bowl a few years later. He was fired by the San Francisco 49ers, and they went on to make it to the Super Bowl a few years later. 3 years later for them, 4 years later for the Bengals, and now the Raiders just fired Chip Kelly, so Super Bowl-bound Raiders soon? Who knows? I mean, maybe if they would have drafted Shedeur Sanders, they could have. But either way, though...
offensive line.
Yeah, literally something. But either way, I do think that this Raiders team's not good. They're not going to win this football game. I just think Los Angeles is the better team on paper. They've showed to be a little inconsistent at times, but even inconsistent teams find ways to win games like this, unless you're the Bills, apparently. But either way, I just think that in there. I do think the Chargers are the better football team, though. 27-13, they get the win here on home turf.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the Rams-Panthers game, this would probably be my lock of the week.
Yeah, I
considering
this one.
how bad the Raiders have been this season, like it is.
Especially when they play good defenses, which is the one redeeming factor about this Chargers team. Sometimes, I guess.
The only thing else I could say, too, is that the Chargers are an inconsistent football team, so...
For sure.
It could really be like, well, if the Chargers play down to competition, but the Raiders are that bad to where I think even if a good team did play down to them, I think that team still would win, yeah. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for this one, but you really can't pick the Raiders right now with how bad their offensive line is and how bad Geno Smith is.
The only way I'd pick them is if they played like the Titans or something, maybe.
Maybe the Jets.
Maybe even then. Yeah, I don't know.
Saints.
I might pick the Jets. That's close. They're close battles. They had their close game last week against the Browns, and even they couldn't do anything there either.
Yeah, true. But both Brian and the AI are also going to side with the LA Chargers as we have a clean sweep in that one. All of us going with the Las Vegas Raiders as we move on to some...
All of us going with the Las Vegas Raiders?
Did I say that? Oh, crap. All of us going with the LA Chargers.
There you go.
As we move on to Sunday Night Football. It's been a while since we've had this many games to talk about.
I know,
16. It is the 9-2 Denver Broncos fighting for that number 1 seed in the AFC as they travel into Washington to take on the 3-8 Commanders, who will probably still not have Jaden Daniels this week.
He's still technically potentially eligible to come back after this game, although... Why would you bring him back if you're gonna be 3-9?
At this rate, yeah, it's looking a little bleak, but
especially in the stacked NFC. I think the 7th seed in the NFC is Green Bay, right? And they're like 7-4.
7-3-1, like that. Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason to bring him back. But anyway, continue.
But yeah, looks like a lopsided matchup on the surface here in this one, and it very well could be. The Commanders have kind of flatlined these really past month or so now, so. We'll see how this one plays out. Broncos have really good defense. Offense has still been shaky so far this season, so that could be a factor going into this one. Do you see the Broncos taking care of business, or do you have a second upset of the week happening here?
No, I don't. I think Denver's the better team here. The one problem with Denver this season has been their offense, but you're going up against a pretty lackluster Commanders defense. It hasn't been the same unit that once was good last season against a lot of different teams. Got them to the NFC Championship game. No Jaden Daniels either. Marcus Mariota's an okay quarterback, but up against one of the better defenses in the NFL. I'd say top 3. Denver, Seattle, and Houston are the 3 best teams to me. I think Philly's in that race too, but I still think Denver's a little bit better. Either way, though, I do think that the Denver Broncos will handle business in this game. It won't be pretty. They won't play too well, but I think 24-10 sounds about right here. Go ahead and give me the Denver Broncos to take care of business on the road at FedEx Field.
Yeah, I just don't really see any chance the Commanders come out here with a win. It's that time of the year where the good teams show themselves and the bad teams show themselves.
We're starting to get to those cut-dry predictions where, we know who's going to win most of the time. But
yeah,
I mean, that's got games like the Colts-Texans and stuff like that. Or
yeah.
Even Chiefs-Cowboys, Lions-Packers that are close.
But this is one of those games for Denver especially where their offense, I don't feel like needs to do a whole lot in this game. The defense will probably take control of this game from the jump, and it's really probably going to be a long night for the Washington Commanders here in this one. But as far as other picks, both Brian and the AI also got the Denver Broncos in this one. As we move on to the last game of the week in December, as it is also in New England with the 10-2 Patriots as they currently hold the number 1 seed in the conference as they host...
I know that hurt you to say.
As they host the 2-10 New Jersey Giants. Yeah, I'm just going to let you take the floor on this one. This is a pretty ugly one on paper.
Yeah, the Giants just got eliminated from the playoffs, which sums up their season. I do think the Giants are a better football team than they've really shown this season. They blew 4 leads this season, and they could easily switch from 2-10 to 6-6, just like that, if they win those 4 games that they didn't choke.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that even with that being said, Jackson Dart showed some potential to be good, and he might come back this week. So I do think it'll be at least a decent football game. But as good as that Giants defense looks on paper with guys like Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and even Abdul Carter, the rookie, they still haven't really showed me much this season that they can stop a team like New England, who's been really good these last couple of weeks. So I do think the Patriots are going to handle business here. They're at home. This is a huge game for playoff implications, trying to hold on to that 1 seed with teams like Denver and Indianapolis even like breathing down their neck. I think they're going to come out. They're going to handle business here as Mike Vrabel gets the job done against the G-Men, 23-14 to round out the week.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those defensive slugfests really this week. The Giants fired their defensive coordinator, I believe it was
Shane
this past
Bowen,
week.
yeah.
So normally, I mentioned this in previous podcasts too. Normally when that happens, I feel like that side of the ball like has like that little bit of extra added juice going into this week. And the Patriots, I feel like on offense, I mean, they still played pretty well, but I mean, against the Bengals defense, you'd expect them to play better than they did.
It's true.
So,
that's why I'm saying Cincinnati's defense has been a lot better recently, too.
So it could be a little bit of, well, this might be a bit of a low-scoring affair. Patriots defense is really solid. So really, if the Patriots keep doing what they've been doing for these past 9 games, their 9-game winning streak now, the Patriots will take care of business, and I think they will, as both Brian and the AI will side with us and go with the Patriots as well. So that rounds out our Week 13 predictions. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone once again. If you guys enjoyed the podcast here today, thumbs up would be greatly appreciated. And if you guys like what we do here on the channel, subscribe would be oh so amazing, as you can subscribe right around here, as I have 2 to 3 minute short videos where I make my score predictions for every single game. If you guys want to see that, it'll be over on Thomas's big forehead right over here.
Damn.
But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy your extended break and the holiday of Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Hopefully you guys get some good stuff. But with that being said, I don't have much else to say except Lifeforms out.